What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. It's time to talk about the Summer League. And no, we are not talking about some of the rookies and their spectacular performances. We're talking about some of the executives, which are very unlikely to meet. But there has been some interesting news, obviously, surrounding the Toronto Raptors and Brooklyn Nets GM Sean Marks regarding Kevin Durant. And there's some other interesting people there in that circle as well. So I'm going to break down all of that in today's video, as well as discuss why Masai Ujiri is ready to fleece the NBA yet again. I'm going to break all of that down. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure to hit the like button. If you want to hit the subscribe button as well, that'd be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on my channel, and for today's video, the shout out goes out to N. So N, thank you so much for supporting this channel with your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. For those of you who may not be familiar with what I am talking about, I'm going to play some of the videos here, which was caught with Masai Ujiri talking to Sean Marks, and Adrian Wojnarowski, of all people, were right in the mix, as well as Lakers GM Rob Pelinka. So I'm going to play this video for you guys, and then I will discuss everything else.
It's on the way to number 15, Uriah History.
Now, this news should come as to no surprise, because obviously the Lakers and Kyrie Irving have been linked this entire offseason. It was rumored by Mark Stein, who was reporting that the Nets wanted a first-round pick from the Lakers in a Kyrie Irving trade, preferred to deal Kevin Durant first. And I don't blame them, because currently, as it stands, Kyrie Irving's trade value isn't the greatest on the market, so they could potentially play him into the season and then build up his value a little bit and then trade him. But Kevin Durant is a completely different situation, because he's clearly not happy with the Brooklyn Nets. And this video was quite interesting. Now, shout out to Adrian Wojnarowski. He wasn't kidding when he said he's an NBA insider. He's literally in the middle of Sean Marks, Rob Pelinka, and Masai Ujiri, listening to their conversation. So that is why he is as reputed as he is, because any information that comes from Adrian Wojnarowski is legit. He's legitimately getting the conversations from these guys. And obviously, given the circumstances of how much the Raptors and Kevin Durant have been linked, this is no surprise that Sean Marks and Raptors executive Masai Ujiri is in there. It's quite interesting to see that Rob Pelinka is in there as well. Could this mean there is potentially a 3-team deal in the mix? Obviously, Masai Ujiri has done this several times throughout the year, where he gets really good trades done, but I think he could really land Kevin Durant, and I think we're going to see this sooner rather than later, because this does not benefit the Nets if they do hold on to Kevin Durant longer. This is just going to be another James Harden in the Rocket situation, where he plays poorly if he's forced to stay with the Brooklyn Nets. And Masai Ujiri has some of the best assets to offer the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, talking about Phoenix Suns, they're in a very tricky situation where they don't have a lot of assets, and I don't think DeAndre Ayton is going to wait around forever. He obviously wants to sign an offer sheet. There's been rumors that the Indiana Pacers will offer that, but DeAndre Ayton, if I'm DeAndre Ayton, I personally would not wait around to fix this issue. And obviously the Nets, there are some rumors that they didn't want Ayton either, so the Phoenix Suns are trying to include their own 3-team trade where they could send some sort of assets to the Brooklyn Nets and somehow land Kevin Durant, which I don't see happening. But this is going to be quite interesting. But the longer this drags on, the worse it is for Phoenix, because even if they do re-sign, let's say they do re-sign DeAndre Ayton, they cannot trade him until much later. So it'll be interesting to see what the Phoenix Suns try to do in the next couple of days. But in the meantime, the Raptors will have the best offer, because the longer the Nets hold on to this, the tougher it's going to be. Now, I know the Rudy Gobert trade really set the mark in terms of how much the Nets are looking for in a Kevin Durant trade, but not every team is as silly as the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not every team is going to give you those amount of picks, and I think Sean Marks is going to eventually realize, because there isn't, not to say there isn't a market for Kevin Durant, obviously there is, but in terms of what teams could offer you, when you talk about this, I mentioned this several videos ago, which is, can most teams offer you 2 guys that play good defense? Obviously, Gary Trent is slowly improving. OG Anunoby is a really good 3-and-D player, but both of these guys are probably very likely going to be averaging near 20 points per game, and they're doing this not as a number 1, not as a number 2 option. They're doing this oftentimes as the 3rd, 4th, and even 5th option on the Toronto Raptors team, which is led by Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, who both have taken turns just being the number 1 and number 2 options. And let's not forget about Scotty Barnes as well, who's had a spectacular season. And towards the end of the season, he was the number 1 and number 2 option often. So if the Nets do acquire someone like OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr., I think they get two really solid players that are going to be the focal point of their offense, and they're going to be the number 1 or number 2 options there. So they're definitely going to, their statistics are going to look a lot better. Again, on the Raptors squad, oftentimes you would see Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet. Sometimes it would be Gary Trent Jr. as the number 2 spot, but it wasn't very consistent. For the most part, it was Pascal and Fred, and then we did have Scotty Barnes as the number 3, and OG Anunoby on most nights was the 3rd and 4th or even 5th options at times. He's not as aggressive as some of the other players, and he doesn't mind passing up open shots. So obviously OG Anunoby and Gary Trent are going to be spectacular, and I really do believe Masai Ujiri is going to fleece because, look, the longer this drags on, Kevin Durant is getting older. What if this leads to an injury while he plays with the Brooklyn Nets? Like, there's no other team that's going to offer you 2 guys that are under 25 that are on really, by the way, reasonable contracts. They're not on crazy deals, which is very, affordability is great there for the Raptors, and they can throw those 2 guys in, and they continue to develop and get better. So I think that's a great trade for the Brooklyn Nets, but I wouldn't put it past Masai Ujiri to somehow only include one of them, and then obviously maybe add in a Birch and fillers and a trade exception we do have as well to somehow land Kevin Durant. And of course, this is going to make things a lot easier if the Lakers are somehow involved. Again, just pure speculation, just based off of what I think. If the Lakers are involved in a 3-team deal that sends Kyrie Irving to the Lakers, and they sent Kevin Durant to the Raptors, and obviously some assets going from the Raptors, assuming obviously that's Gary Trent, OG Anunoby, at the very least, to the Brooklyn Nets, you can get the Lakers to maybe send out a couple picks, right? So it takes a little bit of less assets from the Raptors to get through the Brooklyn Nets as well. So again, we'll wait and see what happens. Very interesting situation happening all around. It looked like it was a fun conversation. But if there's anyone that can read lips and wants to let me know what Masai Ujiri, Sean Marks, and potentially Rob Pelinka we're talking about, definitely do that in the comment section. But obviously, really interesting news brewing in the Summer League. There's so much more to talk about. Christian Koloko had a spectacular debut. He looked great defensively, very raw on the offensive side. But as I said, that is to be expected of him. And of course, Delano Banton and Brooks looked really, really good in their first Summer League game. So I'm expecting big things from them moving forward. But this is quite interesting. But I do want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on Sean Marks and I'm tempted to say Bobby Webster? He is the GM, but Masai Ujiri is the executive who leads the trade talks. And we'll see what happens in the coming days. It could be some potential big news. I honestly do believe that Masai Ujiri will not let up this opportunity and will somehow find a way to get Kevin Durant to the Toronto Raptors. But we'll wait and see what happens. It's an interesting situation all around, but I do want to hear your thoughts. Do you think the Raptors should trade for Kevin Durant, or do you think they should stay the course? We'll see what happens. I know Masai Ujiri did come and say that he's happy with the team. He'll be a lot happier if Kevin Durant comes to the Toronto Raptors. I can guarantee that. I love OG. I love Gary Trent, but realistically speaking, guys, most of the players, I would even go as far as to say even Scotty Barnes, who you see in this picture, is realistically never going to be a first option on a championship team. And with that, you get Kevin Durant. And look, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Kevin Durant. Sure, there's some suggestions that maybe he requests a trade from the Raptors within a season or 2. But taking a look at Kevin Durant's career, he's never really had any off-the-court issues. Sure, he made that terrible decision to go to the Warriors. And I'm not going to lie, I hated Kevin Durant for years. And you could even say I still don't like him right now. But off the court, he's a very low-key guy. I don't really see him being a troublemaker. Plus, the Raptors organization is run so much better, from Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster to Nick Nurse, comparatively to how the Brooklyn Nets have handled the situation last season with Kyrie, James Harden, and obviously Kevin Durant as well. So we'll see what happens. Quite interesting news towards the Summer League as we progress in the next few days. So just keep in tune with this channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to like this video as well. Let's try to get it to 150 likes. And as always, guys, I do have a trivia question for you today. And that trivia question is, this Raptors player averaged 15.8 points per game in his one season in college. Who is this player? Is it A, OG Anunoby? Is it B, Precious Achiuwa? Is it C, Scotty Barnes? Or is it D, David Johnson? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. And that will be it for today's video, guys. So thank you so much for watching. And I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.